fourth graders, and welcome to Lesson 12. My name is Ms. Bertuman, and today we will be solving multi-step word problems. Let's get started. Please read the word problem with me. The City Flower Shop sold 14,594 pink roses on Valentine's Day. They sold 7,857 more red roses than pink roses. How many pink and red roses did the City Flower Shop sell altogether on Valentine's Day? Use a tape diagram to show the work. Whenever I start a word problem, I like to think about the information that I know. So one thing that I do know is that they sold 14,594 pink roses. Let's draw a tape diagram for this. Another piece of information that we know is that they sold more red roses than pink roses. But do we know how many red roses did they sell? No, we don't know that information. I'm going to start a tape diagram for the red roses. And we know that this amount is 14,594, like the pink roses. But now I'm going to extend that tape diagram to include 7,857 more. What is it that we're trying to solve? You can see in our question it asks, how many pink and red roses do the City Flower Shop sell all together? So we need to figure out how many pink and how many red in total. I'm going to draw a bracket here to the side to include both tape diagrams that we've just drawn with the variable R to represent all of the roses that were sold. How can we determine how many red roses were sold? Yes, we can add 14,594 plus 7,857. Pause the video here and solve for how many red roses total were sold on Valentine's Day. We'll compare answers when you get back. Take a moment now to compare your work with mine. Let's return back to this bottom tape diagram. How many red roses were sold? 22,451 red roses were sold. Again, we're trying to solve for how many roses were sold all together with our variable R. How do we solve for R? Yes, we need to add our pink roses and red roses. So 14,594 plus 22,451. Again, pause the video here, solve, and then we'll compare our work after. What does R equal? R equals 37,045. Let's now write a statement to answer the question. The City Flower Shop sold 37,045 pink and red roses on Valentine's Day. Please read this next word problem with me. On Saturday, 32,736 more bus tickets were sold than on Sunday. On Sunday, only 17,295 tickets were sold. How many people bought bus tickets over the weekend? Use a tape diagram to show the work. Think for a minute here. What information do you know? We know that on Sunday, only 17,295 tickets were sold. We also know that on Saturday, more tickets were sold than on Sunday. In fact, there were 32,736 more tickets. Let's start with a tape diagram to represent Sunday. Again, we know it's 17,295 tickets that were sold on Sunday. For Saturday, we know it was more. So this first part represents, again, 17,295. But now I'm going to extend my tape diagram even further. And this larger part represents the fact that there were 32,736 more tickets that were sold on Sunday. What information are we trying to figure out? We need to solve how many people bought bus tickets over the weekend. I'm going to draw a bracket to the right of our two tape diagrams with the variable t to represent the number of tickets sold over the weekend. Before we solve, let's estimate. I'd like you to round the numbers to the nearest 10,000 to figure out about how many tickets were sold over the weekend. We'll compare our estimates afterwards. Pause here. How did you do with estimating? When I rounded the numbers to the nearest 10,000, I saw about 20,000 were sold on Sunday. And so on Saturday, that meant I had about 50,000 tickets were sold, giving us a total of about 70,000 tickets sold over the weekend. What I'd like you to do next is find the exact answer. Go ahead and pause the video here to solve for the exact answer, and then of course we'll compare our work afterwards. Take a moment to compare your answer with mine. Okay, so the total number of tickets sold over the weekend is 67,326. Therefore, T equals 67,326. Let's look back at our estimate. Is our answer reasonable? Yes, our answer is reasonable. If we were to round 67,326 to the nearest 10,000, it would be 70,000. Let's now write a statement to answer the question above.
I have mine. I don't know if we're going to need it.
Read the statement with me. There were 67,326 people who bought tickets over the weekend. Please read this problem with me. Last year, Big Bill's department store sold many pairs of footwear. 118,214 pairs of boots were sold. 37,092 more pairs of sandals than pairs of boots were sold, and 124,417 more pairs of sneakers than pairs of boots were sold. How many pairs of footwear were sold last year? Take a moment now to think about all the information that we do know. Using that information, I'd like you to now pause the video here to draw a tape diagram to represent this problem. We'll compare afterwards. Take a moment now to compare your tape diagram with mine. The question asks, how many pairs of footwear were sold last year? So we're trying to solve for all of the pairs of shoes. So I'm going to draw a bracket to the side and label it with the variable P for pairs of footwear sold. Before we begin solving for the actual number, let's make an estimate. Pause the video here to make an estimate of the pairs of footwear sold last year. We'll compare our work afterwards. Here's my estimate. You'll see that I rounded each number above to the nearest 10,000, giving me an estimate of 520,000. The next thing I'd like you to do is solve for the actual number. Pause the video here to do that now, and then we'll compare afterwards. You can see I still needed a little bit more space to solve this problem. Go ahead and take a moment to compare your work with mine. Now, when I solved it, I saw that it was 516,151. Let's return now back to our estimate. Is our estimate reasonable? Yes, it is. Because we can see 516,151 rounded to the nearest 10,000 would in fact be 520,000. So our statement here answers the question. The statement is 516,151 pairs of footwear were sold last year. Great work today. Let's move into today's assignment. For today's assignment, your must-do problems are here on the screen. Take 10 minutes to work through these problems, and then of course, if you have any additional time, feel free to work through any other problems on the pages. For today's lesson, we solved multi-step word problems. Excellent work today. Thank you all so much for joining us, and then of course, be sure to check in with your teacher, and we'll see you here next time for another Eureka Math lesson. See you soon!